When the game tips off, the NBA action is just beginning on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because FanDuel is your home for NBA live betting. However you want to play, now is the perfect time to join. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. 21 plus and present in Virginia. First online, real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. Born on this date in 1883, Sacred Harp composer Judge Jackson of Montgomery County. Jackson went from farm worker to landowner in Dale County and was turned on to sacred harp music there. He wrote a song collection he called The Colored Sacred Harp in the 1930s. Now, if you're not familiar with sacred harp music, it's a rabbit hole worth going down and probably a bigger part of Alabama music culture than people realize today. The tradition involves a cappella choral singing. It's usually written in shape notes, and it's not a performance, but a participatory art. It's kind of like instead of taking your band on stage, you just get together and jam. Now, I don't believe it was often done at church, but at get-togethers that folks called singings. Now, if you went to meeting, then got together for a singing and had dinner on the ground, you had you a Sunday. Anyway, Judge Jackson was an influential figure in the art in the South, born 142 years ago today. Today also, they say, is National Working Mothers Day. Now, I'm not going to do social commentary here, but here's a logic teaser. If there's such a thing as a non-working mom, then do all this nation's child care workers get up in the morning, get dressed, and go to non-work? That's what I want to know. Either way, here's hoping that all you mothers out there have a great day. Today, we're going to have a conversation with Bill Bubba Bussey, formerly of the Rick and Bubba Show. We'll talk about his new podcast, Bubba on the Lake, reflect a little on the Rick and Bubba years and life in general. Tennis versus pickleball and other serious life topics might come up. First, though, we have news updates on Doge, potential weather, barbecue, and a ballpark burger. My name's Ike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. There are a couple of Doge updates that we want to pass on. First, there had been a lot of concern in recent days that the historic Montgomery bus station and its Freedom Rides Museum would be axed by the Trump administration and its chief cut man, Elon Musk. Now, that was the site of a 1961 incident in which white supremacists attacked freedom riders who were challenging segregated buses in the South. The station and museum had shown up on a list of non-core federal properties that would likely be sold. However, U.S. Senator Katie Britt has said the administration communicated to her that the site is not on that non-core list, at least not anymore, and it won't be sold. Also, according to an Associated Press report, multiple sources confirmed that the administration is cutting 10% of the current NOAA workforce. Now, that amounts to more than 1,000 people nationally. Those are in addition to the previous firing of most new employees at NOAA. NOAA, which includes the National Weather Service, handles daily weather forecasts and monitors hurricanes and other forms of severe weather. It also manages fisheries, delivers navigation information for ships, and even forecasts space weather that might impact the electrical grids. The National Weather Service has 4 offices that each cover part of Alabama, in Huntsville, Birmingham, Mobile, and Tallahassee. We're looking at a few chances for severe weather in the state this week, reports AL.com's Lee Morgan. It's just like springtime in the South already. Now, at last update, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday all could bring bad storms, with the chances of the severe stuff increasing each day. So they're eyeing Saturday in particular, with the potential for strong storms, tornadoes, and large hail across much of the state. Of course, I'm not talking to you live, so just make sure you stay plugged into your trusted weather sources this week. And we have 2 food notes. First, on barbecue, Southern Living dropped its The South's Best Barbecue Joint in Every State 2025 list. And for Alabama, Big Bob Gibson topped the list, reports AL.com's Matt Wake. Big Bob Gibson is ground zero for smoked chicken and Alabama white sauce. Also, I don't know if we get any credit for this, but the Florida winner was a Tampa place called Big John's Alabama Barbecue. So there you go. Big Bob, Big John. I guess if you start a barbecue joint, you have a better than average chance of being a big somebody. The other food note I'll make is really a thinly way for me to say that we're closing in on baseball season. Minor league baseball is pretty happening here in Alabama with our Southern League teams in Madison, Birmingham, and Montgomery. Well, the Birmingham Barons announced some of their menu this week, reports AL.com's Bob Carlton, and apparently Bo Jackson is taking his place in the hamburger business. On the menu at Regions Field come the April 4th home opener will be Bo's Hometown Burger with Angus beef, bacon, lettuce, tomato, an onion ring, and special sauce on a Kaiser roll. It'll set you back $12 or $16 if you get the combo. Jackson will also be at Regions Field July 25th to throw out the first pitch before the Barons play the Montgomery Biscuits. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we have Bill Bubba Bussey, the host of Bubba on the Lake. Y'all stay with us.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. It's tax season, and we're all a bit tired of numbers. But here's one you need to hear. $16.5 billion. That's how much the IRS flagged for possible identity fraud last year. Now here's a good number. 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it. Guaranteed. Save up to 40% your first year at LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Hey, folks, thanks for staying with us. Now, we have a great second segment today. The Rick and Bubba Show for more than 3 decades was a force in radio in Alabama, across the South, and at various points at many other places in the country. 6 a.m. to 10 every morning for more than 30 years is a huge chunk of people's lives. And I'm talking about listeners, but that's even truer for our guest today. I want to welcome to the virtual studio the host of the brand new podcast, Bubba on the Lake, Bill Bubba Bussey.
Ike, what a pleasure it is to be with you today. And thank you for having me, man. This is awesome. You can tell I'm still sleepy from the 30 years of getting up early.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that. Are you still getting up early, or have things changed, or are you still in that pattern?
Well, I think I'm going to be in that pattern for a long time. I actually talked to the doctor about it. I said, how's the best way to transition out of this very odd life that I've got accustomed to? And he said, don't try to change it too quick. Just go to bed 30 minutes later, get up 30 minutes later, and then try to do 30 more. And that kind of thing. It's still a little erratic, though. There's a few nights I wake up at 3:30 like, oh, no, I'm late, but we're getting there. I will say this, sleeping later helps you to see in color. It's like, the Wizard of Oz, when everything got bright and pretty again, I could see. It's like a whole new life, being able to sleep till like 6 o'clock. It's great.
See, I had friends in college that were into bad habits, and they would say, I changed and the world became clearer.
Yes. That's, the thing is, I loved what we did, and it was a lot of fun when I got there, but the time of day you do it, the time of day you have to go to bed, you kind of get blinders on. And, people think, well, you're done by lunch, you have all day, but you don't feel like doing anything. I mean, in the afternoon, you feel like a board has hit you in the head. So, it's a transition, but I think it's going to be positive.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually.
Oh, yeah. And it doesn't help being on the lake. Let's get to that. Bubba on the Lake. Now, you've had an introductory episode already. Going forward, are we looking at monologues, guests, interview? What kind of show are we expecting?
Ike, I would like to tell you that it's planned out to the T and heavily researched, but that is not the case. I'm afraid I'm not talented enough to do that. What you do, where y'all do it professionally, I have to kind of just go with whatever's in front of me. And there'll be days that we have monologues about things, politics, religion, sports, and then there's going to be goofy things that we're going to do. My wife is going to be involved, and Betty is. We've been married 36 years. She's my best friend, and we have a lot of fun together. My kids are going to be involved. I have a lot of neighbors that I've met that are really interesting and nice people, and they provide a lot of entertainment too. So if I can capture that on the podcast, it'll be a lot of fun for everybody.
Yeah, I know Betty was a huge hit on Rick and Bubba. It seemed like every time she was on the show, it made a best of CD for some reason.
She's just what I would say raw. She says exactly what she's thinking. And a lot of times it's exactly what everybody else is thinking. And so that's what makes it good. She's funny. I mean, she's just a funny person. She's very smart, but she has her blonde moments. And we all know what that means. And she's on me all the time like a good wife should be. So it's, she loves to keep me straight. That's for sure.
Now, can I ask what lake? And I promise I won't show up with a fishing pole.
No, it's no problem. You're always welcome, Mike. You know that. It's Lake Martin. We live down in Alexander City, right on the border of Elmore County, Coosa County, and Tallapoosa County. And it's a beautiful lake. It's huge. It's about 38 miles end to end. The thing that I really like about Lake Martin is all the places you can eat. That's one of my favorite habits. And there's several restaurants you can float up to and eat. And, that just makes for a better day on the water, I always say.
Well, if you hear somebody outside, hey, man, can I borrow a can of Wigglers? You'll know who it is.
Oh, yeah. Well, listen, we have people come by all the time, and I love it. We sit up on the porch, and people are honking. And listen, believe it or not, I'm not the main attraction where I live. I live a couple of houses down from Bruce Pearl, the Auburn basketball coach. And the number of people who come by playing the Auburn fight song as loud as their stereo will handle it is shocking.
No, I can imagine so. Now, on your first episode, you talked about going from the number 2 guy, like the color guy, to sitting in the captain's chair. Now, is this your biggest challenge up front, do you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Being the number 2 guy is like I said on the podcast, like being the color guy in football. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people can do color. There's very few can do play-by-play. Being a number 2 guy in comedy, you kind of sit back and you kind of wait for somebody to make a mistake, and then you can give them a zinger. When you're driving the bus, so to speak, it's a little bit different. You got to pay attention to what's going on and run the knobs. You know that, how you're doing there. And, it's just a little bit different. I don't speak real well anyway. I have several speech impediments. So it always lends to excitement, but I like to spend the time in the bucket being laughed at, just like I like laughing at the world around me. So it's all right.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I'm a newspaper guy, and every time I interview someone or talk with someone on here, it's either a reporter who asks questions for a living, or it's a broadcast professional like you. We had a play-by-play. Brandon Gaulden was on the show. And I'm like, I'm going to get fired doing this because nobody ever says, hey, Ike saved that interview,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I know what you mean. And of course, I'm here at Jack State. I work here full time, and we love it up here. I grew up in Jacksonville, and to be back working at Jack State is a dream come true in the athletic department.
Hmm.
And I've even got this very colorful 3D logo over my head, so I'm very excited about that.
That is pretty exciting. What is your exact job for folks who don't know?
I am an assistant athletic director and the director of broadcasting, and we do about between 150 and 200 live sporting events a year. Some of those are on ESPN Plus. Some of them are on our radio network, and we have started doing what I call streamcasting now, so we can get more sports on the air because we've got so many sports going on. I mean, we've got something that seems like every day. We're starting the spring edition of our coaches show tonight, as a matter of fact, at the Apothecary Draft House on the square in historic Jacksonville, hosted by broadcast legend Eli Gold. And it's an hour-long program, and we partner with 2 or 3 TV stations and our radio network to do that. And it's a lot of fun, but it's a lot of work getting it all ready to go too. So all of that kind of falls under me. I have 2 full-time guys that work under me and a part-time student. And then we have about 20 students that work in an athletic department, and we share those. And some of those work camera for us, and some of them work in sports information. And they get some hands-on experience about real-life sports management and broadcasting.
Well, the first thing that makes me think is you need to do a podcast with all your extra time.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking that too. We have a couple of folks here on campus that do podcasts that are very successful. So I think it's becoming more the norm than the exception. But it's it's a fun thing to do for me. I thought about not doing anything. I thought, we've done this for 30 years. I got nothing to prove. I was sleepy. I was tired, and but I miss the people. I miss the interaction. I miss getting to cut up with them. And somebody said a long time ago, the most addictive drug is applause, and I believe that. And I mean that in a positive way. I like to see people happy. I like to see them smile. And if I can make them smile with a joke, or I can be the butt of the joke, I just like to see people laugh. I really do. I think it's the best medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lord knows you've done that over the years. Before we get off Jacksonville State, Michael Helms coaches tennis there now. He's from the show. Do you guys cross paths?
Oh yeah. I saw him. I guess it was maybe Friday. Yeah, we're kind of joking that Jack State is now the rehab for the Rick and Bubba show. Everybody that piles out of there, but we're both graduates from here, and Michael's a great guy, and he's a very energetic coach. And a matter of fact, I think I was one of the people that got him into tennis. So for him to be coaching now is kind of awesome. I keep joking with him that I'm going to come out there and be his volunteer assistant. He keeps waving me off. So I don't know what that means. But anyway, we're excited to have him here. His office is in the Coliseum, and so is mine, but he's on the opposite end, and he has a lot of steps going to his office. So I don't go up there a lot. But no, we're glad to have him here. The tennis teams are doing very well. He coaches the men and the women's team. So he's the director of tennis, and I think he's really enjoying it.
My wife told me that I should mention this to you, and I wasn't going to, but now that we're talking about Helmsy and coaching tennis and your tennis background, you're a fan of the sport and you've played it recreationally. My daughter plays high school tennis, so I'm sharing that so you can be proud of that.
Yeah, I am. I love high school tennis. I coached at Briarwood, or helped coach junior high and varsity for maybe 9 years. And I really, really enjoyed that. I miss the kids. I miss the interaction. I always enjoyed, showing them a little technique, a little secret, and them going out and actually applying that to their game and it making a difference. There's no better feeling as a coach for that. But I miss it. I started late in life with tennis. I really didn't pick it up till I was like 40. But I'd played sports in high school, and usually when I dive into something, this is a possible character flaw. I tend to go all in, and sometimes my wife doesn't appreciate that. But I got into it. I got certified to teach. I just soaked it up, tried to learn as much as I could. I enjoyed playing until my joints got so bad I couldn't do much with it. But we miss it, man. I used to love to go down to Mobile. We had tournaments down there, and our state tournament for men's tennis was down there. And we played in June and July, which, hey, if you're in Mobile playing tennis in June and July, you better love it.
Yeah, I mean, have you transitioned to pickleball at all?
I have played a little bit of pickleball. I tend to be a tennis purist, Ike, so I kind of resisted pickleball to begin with. And there were some people wanting to tear up tennis courts to build pickleball courts, and I was against that. It wasn't I was against pickleball. I just didn't want to tear up tennis courts. So I kind of felt like if you wanted to grow pickleball, build pickleball courts. So I kind of got, I think, unfairly painted as an anti-pickleball person, and that was not the case. We have a very active pickleball community where I live. So unless you want to be scoring, you learn to play. And the one thing I don't know about you, you tell me, I don't like the sound of it. That tink, tink, tink sound. To me in tennis, when you hit a good forehand across that ball with top spin, it sounds like a musical instrument. It just feels good. But with that paddle, it's like tink, tink, tink. It's like it's just, I hate the sound of it. I wish it sounded different. But it's a lot like tennis. It's just you don't have to run as far, and I like that. And plus, everybody go to eat after the match. So how can you can't go wrong with that.
My concern is, well, you alluded to that they tear up tennis courts. It's like kudzu taking over, and it came over from the West Coast, and I'm not sure what everyone has in mind. That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to do a conspiracy here, but it has certainly taken over quickly. But.
Well, I think there were some other sports that were conspiracy theories, and that's soccer. Clearly that was a communist plot to bring down our country, and it's had some success. But no, I think pickleball's fun. It's a very social sport, and if you don't take it too serious, like my wife says I do, you can have a lot of fun at it. But in tennis, I'm a net gorilla, man. I mean, I'm up there poaching, and I'm battling it out at the net, and you have to get way back out of the kitchen. So it's one of the few times that I'm told to get out of the kitchen, and but it has its positives. I mean, I see a lot of people enjoying it, so I'm good with it. I'm not anti-pickleball, even though I got somewhat painted that way to begin with.
Anything gets folks out of the house, it's a good thing. Get a little sunshine. I wanted to ask,
move around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask, how musicians, you kind of judge a band, or not judge a band, but part of learning about a band is their influence and all this. Do you have radio influences or entertainment or comedy influences that has sort of molded you as a personality?
Oh yeah. I mean, I loved David Letterman growing up. I used to stay up and watch him every night. I loved his warped sense of humor. Don't really follow with his politics, but I certainly liked his humor. There's a lot. I think Greg Gutfeld's doing a great job over at Fox. He's funny, but he's edgy and he doesn't care. And I think he's doing a real good job with that. Brian Regan is one of my favorite comedians. James Gregory was one of my favorite comedians. Mickey Dean was one of my favorite comedians. I think they do a great job. I always enjoyed Bill O'Reilly as a news guy. I thought he did a good job and was entertaining, had quite a following. So, if I could do a podcast that was part Bill O'Reilly, part David Letterman, and hosted with somebody with the morals of Tim Tebow, I'd be in good shape. Now, I'm not saying I have that, okay? I'm not saying that. Please don't quote me on that. I'm just saying that as a goal, you know?
Right, right.
Well, Ike, how about you, man? How long have you been doing this now?
I've been doing this podcast, which is usually a short podcast, a 5-minute, here's some updates, and then sometimes we have guests on, for 7 years, almost 8 now.
Wow. Well, listen, that's very successful in this business.
Yeah, well, it's kind of sort of unique in its own little corner of the I don't even know what you call it. You used to call the blogs the blogosphere. What do you call the podcastosphere? But it's been a blast.
Make up a word. I like that.
The thing about podcasting, and you're not new to it. You did Rick and Bubba University, but the thing about the podcast audience is it is, and I'm not just saying it because they're listening, but it is the coolest audience really to serve because they're engaged. I mean, they turn you off, and radio, y'all had just unbelievable numbers of listeners, but on radio they come and they go, and on TV they come. People are going about their day, and podcast, you got them. They're paying attention to you, so they're thoughtful when they give you. Even if they're complaining about something, it's a thoughtful complaint. And that's what's so fun about it. Because even though you never hear their voices when you're doing it, it feels like a room of people. And I'm just telling the news, but it feels like there's folks there. So anyway, that's my little I love podcasts speech.
Well, it's the future. And, I grew up on radio. I love getting in the car and punching the button and scanning and hearing things. But, the listener habits have changed, and podcasting has definitely changed. What I like about it is, in the radio business, you have a program director that can take you off the air or put you on the air, or a general manager, and they make a decision for the people what they get to hear. Mm-hmm. Well, with podcasting and the internet, the people get to decide. If they want to listen to Ike or they want to listen to Bubba on the Lake, they can do it. If they don't like it, they don't have to. Mm-hmm. But there's nobody else standing in the way. There's no gatekeeper. So it's a very pure and straightforward form, that's for sure.
Yeah, democratization is the word that we like to use for social media and thoughts this day and age.
Can you say that again? I'm impressed you were able to say that.
I can't believe I got it out. I was ready actually to spike the audio so that I could see where to go back and edit. I'm not even going to try it again.
Okay, so you do that too. If you mess up, this is a little podcast secret. If you mess up, you go like that. And then when you're editing the file, you see that spike and you just dip it down like there was a problem with the audio and nobody ever hears it, right? That's what I do.
The best I remember from the last time I made a mistake, yes, that's what I do. And I learned that. Here's a funny story. I learned that ESPN sideline sports reporter Lauren Sisler and I did a best fried chicken in Alabama YouTube series. And she's a pro. Like I've told you, I'm a newspaper guy. I'm not a pro, but she taught me that. So that's a good tip.
She is an incredible talent, has a incredible story. I'm sure you've covered that before about her and her parents. And she's just a really super person. We've had her on the podcast before. And anytime I know she's going to be on a football game or whatever, I look forward to it because she does a really, really good job. I think there's going to be bigger and better things for her in the future. So, Ike, you better enjoy her while you can.
Oh, she's gone. Oh, she's well beyond my my podcast sphere. She is long gone. But that was a blast. What was fun was taking her to the boyhood home of Hank Williams and and explaining the importance of all the country music trivia.
All up and down through Alabama, there's so much history with Hank Williams. We used to have a hunting camp that I was on down in close to Rockford, Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And there was an old cabin out in the woods, and they called it Hank's Cabin. And I asked somebody one time, I said, now, why do y'all call it Hank's Cabin? And they said, well, Hank Williams used to come out here and he'd tie one on for 2 weeks and write songs and all that kind of stuff. And then there was a barn not too far down the road that the owners of that claimed he used to go out there and perform on Saturday nights. I mean, everywhere you go through central Alabama, Hank Williams did something there, you know.
Yeah.
And of course, Kalijah, where I live, I mean, he wrote songs out there. He wrote Kalijah down there. So.
Yeah, I know Rockford well. Triple R Cafe, fried chicken, man. I'll put you on some fried chicken.
Hey, that's my place. That's my place, man. I love it. I love it. We go there a lot during hunting season when we're down there, and occasionally outside of hunting season. But we love those folks, and they do a great job.
I always wanted to hear the story. Well, I guess it's kind of an obvious story, but there's a yard just out of town toward the north side that they did a sidewalk shaped like the script A for the Alabama logo.
Yeah, you see a lot of planes fly over looking at that. The script A is, I don't know, about 4 times bigger than the house, just to give you a comparison. But you just never know what you go see in Coosa County now. It's there's always excitement down there.
No, yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we're looking forward to the podcast. I did want to make sure we reflected a little bit on what you've done. Originally, my first question was going to be, so is it Bill or Bubba these days? But I guess the podcast Bubba on the Lake answers that. Can you tell us about the origins of the name Bubba in your career?
Well, Rick gave me that name. I was simply Bill for most of my life. And the day that I actually started on the air with Rick, he referred to me as Bubba. He said, I sound like everybody's Uncle Bubba. And probably not my favorite nickname to have, although there's nothing wrong with it. It stuck. And I don't care what they call me, long as they call me, I get called Bill, Bubba, hey, you, biggin. I answer to any of those. And the only real disadvantage is if you're in Walmart on Saturday night and somebody calls you, so many people turn around and look because they all have the same name. But no, I wear the Bubba name proud. I'm glad to be called that. And, it's really kind of the default word for brother. So many people, when they're a kid trying to say brother, will say Bubba. And so we wear it proudly.
Okay. Does that go back to the Good Old Boy Theater days? Because I love hearing that.
Yes,
story.
that was the first thing we did on the air. We used to go to lunch quite a bit. Before I was on the air, I was just the engineer there at Q104 and Wax Radio, and we would talk about things. And I knew Rick from college. We used to cut up quite a bit, and we were talking about a guy reading Shakespeare, but in a Southern voice. And Rick actually had a book with some quotes in it, and we were looking at them and underlined a few of them. And he was going to do it, and I was actually in there just to watch him do it. And at the last minute, about 30 seconds, he said, "Here, you read it. You sound like everybody's Uncle Bubba. You read it." So I sat down and read it, and man, hey, tell me about a game changer. That was it. It was on then, baby.
You really put it on too, didn't you? You laid it on thick.
It was fun. I had to. I was still the engineer for a while, and then they decided that we were going to do the morning show, and they were going to get a new engineer. So it was fun. Those early days, especially, were a lot of fun. It was very raw and different. And at the time, there was country music was very, very popular. This is during the Garth Brooks, Shania Twain, when they first came on the scene. And we had 2 big country stations on either side of us, one in Albertville, one in Anniston. And, we were just getting, top 40 was just getting squeezed. So, we got on out of desperation more than anything, but it ended up working out. We had a lot of fun. We had nothing to lose. And that made us, a little bit edgy, and that was fun.
Yeah. Over the years, y'all seemed also pretty open with the audience with your lives and that sort of thing. But is there a part of the Rick and Bubba show that the audience never was inside on?
No, I think we shared about everything. Ike, when you have 4 hours to fill every day, you don't have a lot of secrets. What's funny is we had not planned on doing a show that was mostly talk to begin with, but we went out, we listened to Mark and Brian that we listened to growing up, and they did a show that was mostly them cutting up. There was a song every now and then, and we started trying to kind of integrate that into what we were doing. And the more we did that, the more it took off, because it seemed like the music was dividing people. If you liked Whitney Houston, you loved it. If you didn't, you didn't. If you were a country music fan, you didn't care for the top 40. So we tried to kind of take that option out. But it's funny because our GM at the time said that the corporate people were not happy that we were not playing any music and wanted to be sure that we were. So we played one song an hour so he could report back to them we were playing music. And and we played that so we could all go to the bathroom, and so it was really, it kind of evolved on its own. But I'll tell you, we're just not professional enough to hide anything. It was what it was, and you heard it, and we just kind of roll with it. But we had a lot of fun for most of those years.
Well, here's my Rick and Bubba story. When my wife and I were dating, we lived in the same city. It was a quick day trip to the beach. She was from Birmingham, so she started listening. This is probably 2003, 2004. She started listening to the show whenever she could because it made her feel closer to home. You know how that goes. Since y'all were based there and everything. Well, I ended up buying her a couple of best of Rick and Bubba CDs. So during this time, we made a lot of day trips to the beach, and we wore the paint off of those CDs. So I guess I have you on the show, so I want to thank you. Not only was it us riding and laughing and everything, but it was, I think maybe I can credit y'all with nudging her back toward the good old boy side of things, which might have opened the door for me a little bit. Right. She's around all those college kids.
I hear you. Well, Ike, we do all we can do. And no, we appreciate that. And we had a lot of fun doing it. We really did. It never was like work. That's for sure.
Is there anything else going on in where Bubba lives and what you're going to be doing that you want to share with folks or folks need to know?
Well, we're just trying to adjust to what I call the new world order. I'm not used to being a regular person that comes to a regular job at normal hours. So that's always, that's been a little fun. I don't know how long it'll take for that to seem normal again. I'm looking forward to that. And we're enjoying playing with the podcast. It's, we did 223 podcasts over one a week at the Rick and Bubba show. So that was several years. So, and like I said, podcasting's not new. Now, I didn't do it. We had people who did that, Mm-hmm. So I've had to kind of learn to do that again. And listen, I'm impressed, Ike, that as many people have podcasts as they do, because it's not as easy as just, hey, get you a microphone and hit a button and it all goes up magically. I mean, right. There's several steps in between. So listen, I'm impressed with anybody that does one on a regular basis.
Yeah, and you got to chase down those platforms and get it hooked up where it's going to go everywhere it needs to go. And for folks who are going to get one or two listeners, I mean, like they're dedicated, to start out with.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I see people that do these live Facebook live things, and sometimes I just flip by to see. I just have to look. I'm like a cat, I guess. I have to see what's happening.
Yeah,
and I'll click on some of them, and they got like one or two people watching, and I'm like, I just want to go bless their heart. I don't know how you.
Well, that's how it starts.
How you keep doing it. Yeah, I know you got to, and you got to build it up, and it takes time. But it's the early days can be tough.
They can be tough. Well, folks, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you coming on so much.
I appreciate you asking. It's a pleasure. I've known what you do for a long time. I have not paid as much attention to it as I needed to, simply because I had those blinders on. I'm impressed. You do a great job, and I've had a great time. I would love to come back on anytime you will have me. So you just call.
Oh, great. Let's pick a good time and do it then. Folks, Bubba on the Lake is now available. Can I say anywhere you get your podcast yet, or is it still kind
Yeah,
of?
pretty much. I mean, it's on all the major platforms: Apple, iHeart, Spotify,
Mm.
YouTube, all that. I mean, there's a lot of outlets now, so we try to get them on as many as we can to make it as convenient as possible for everybody.
Okay. Well, we'll link to one of them in show notes. And thanks everybody out there for listening to us. We are going to be back again in the morning. Until then, as always, y'all come by and see what we're doing anytime you want to on the World Wide Web at al.com.